on whether the new phones and HomePod are sexy enough to get consumers and investors like you to buy in. We bring in Gerber Kawasaki CEO Ross Gerber and MarketWatch tech editor Jeremy Owens. Jeremy, give me your gut response about this, and let me drill down on the promise versus the hype. Specifically, when Apple announced that Riot Games had signed on to provide for the first time its League of Legends game as a mobile offering that would really require 5G power. Riot Games' parent Tencent stock immediately, which it had opened down, turned around and popped. What does that tell you about the hype versus the reality?
Well, it tells me that people want to see games on these phones. They want to see what 5G is going to bring. Right? When we got 4G, we didn't have Netflix streaming. We didn't have Uber and Lyft and some of these other services. And that ability to really work that data is what brought those services along. We're going to have to see what 5G brings. A lot of the thing is cloud gaming, and seeing that kind of big, being out in front with that kind of game is going to help that company.
Ross, what jumped out at you? And I do not want to ignore the HomePod Mini, but I think what's interesting about that, and I think people looked at it and said, okay, yeah, it's small, it's got mesh, it looks pretty chic. We started to watch Sonos because that stock, of course, might be in competition. And initially it fell and then it popped back up again. What does that tell you?
Well, I'm a big Sonos fan and use Sonos, and I think it's a big mistake that Apple hasn't bought Sonos so far, because what a great company, and it perfectly integrates with Apple. But Apple insists on trying to do things mediocrely in markets they're not good at, and this pod thing is a waste of energy. The real exciting part of today is the fact that this phone costs $1,000. I was expecting it to be probably $1,200 and a real premium because of the 5G. But what they really decided to do was get the phone out at a reasonable price point so that people can get on the 5G networks, and then they can start seeing the benefit of that, which will lead to more sales. And I think it's a real smart strategy to keep the phone priced in a reasonable price range.
Yeah, what do you think about that pricing? And do you expect, Jeremy, to see a mass adoption here for 5G, which I hate to break it to everybody, whatever Hans Vestberg said, and by the way, Verizon is definitely well ahead, so that's why they got the nod from Apple. It really, I don't feel it yet. And I'm in New Jersey. I'm looking at Manhattan right out of my window. So, what I'm starting to hear a lot about is wave. Millimeter wavelength, and that's sort of that bridge that will help kind of bridge that gap between 4G and 5G at the moment. But they didn't really mention anything about wave, which is more indoors. It can't see around buildings, etc. But what do you think, Jeremy?
Right. You heard the Verizon CEO, if you watch the event, talk about stadiums and putting wave in places in, dense city cores. We're not going to those places right now, and we're mostly stuck on Wi-Fi. Most of us are on Wi-Fi all day now if we're not going out and doing as many things. So the value proposition there may not be that great, but keeping those prices where they are, usually when Apple takes a big step like this, like moving to 5G, they're going to charge more for it. They're going to have one or two phones. That was kind of the expectation here, that the Pro phones would have all 3 bands of 5G. Maybe you would have the not so fast bands on the cheaper ones. But they put that, all band capability for 5G in all the phones and did not increase the prices from the last round. That creates the value proposition. And we may now see, as you kind of mentioned, the wireless carriers getting back into subsidies to try to draw customers and create these carrier wars again, which may make it even more accessible for consumers.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And Verizon said it's not really going to charge more for that. Yeah, and go ahead and your final thought, Ross, about whether any of this entices you.
Yeah, it really does. And going back to what you were saying, if you think about work from home, actually having a 5G phone is super efficient because we're all working on our phones and the speed is like 20 times, 100 times faster. But if you're a gamer, this is kind of a must have. If you're a mobile gamer, the speeds will give you a huge edge playing Call of Duty or League of Legends. So there's a lot of reasons to upgrade, and the only disadvantage would have been the price, and they took that out of the equation. This is a huge success for Apple. Great job, Tim Cook and the team there. I'm really impressed, and I think the phones are going to do great.
All right, Jeremy Owens, Ross Gerber, great to have you. Thank you so much. And yes, Apple is moving lower, but if you look at exactly what Apple has done right around the time of these announcements, only 4 times out of, who knows, multiple other times have they gone higher, 4 or 5 times that, according to Bespoke. All right, stocks caught between vaccine fears and earnings season. The Dow is down 141. Our floor show traders are about to play referee on that push me pull you next. Stay tuned.